She wanted an open marriage. Now I'm happier without her, and she hates it. It was a Tuesday, an ordinary day that turned into anything but. We had just finished dinner, and she looked unusually serious. I figured she wanted to talk about something work-related or maybe bring up her family drama again. But no, what came out of her mouth flipped my world upside down. She sat across from me, twirling her fork with her fingers, eyes focused on the table as though she couldn't bear to look at me. Then, almost too casually, she said, "I think we should try an open marriage." I laughed. I genuinely thought she was joking. The woman I'd been married to for 6 years wasn't one to throw curveballs like that. "Come on," I said, grinning. "What are you really trying to say?" But her face didn't change. "I'm serious," she replied softly. "I love you, but I feel stuck. I think we've gotten too comfortable, and I don't want to wake up one day resenting you or my life." Her words stung. I blinked, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. Stuck? Resenting me? I swallowed hard. "What do you mean? We're happy, aren't we?" "We're comfortable," she corrected, her voice firmer now. "But comfort doesn't mean happiness. I want us to explore other connections, maybe find new excitement. You know, keep things fresh." Keep things fresh. The words hit me like a slap across the face. I couldn't wrap my head around it. We'd built a life together, shared dreams, built routines, and yes, maybe things weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. "Are you seeing someone?" I asked, my voice tight. She shook her head quickly. "No, it's not like that. I'm not cheating, I swear. I just think this could make us stronger." I stared at her. My stomach churned. I didn't know whether to scream or cry, so I just sat there, frozen. Make us stronger? The words felt hollow. It didn't make sense. She kept talking, explaining her reasoning. How she'd been feeling this way for a while. How she still loved me but didn't want to feel trapped. I heard her, but I wasn't listening. All I could think about was how the woman I loved, the woman I'd trusted, was asking me to share her. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while she drifted off peacefully beside me. I thought about saying no, about telling her this was a deal-breaker. But some twisted part of me wondered if she was right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I'd been holding her back. Maybe this was the only way to save us. The next morning, I made my decision. Over breakfast, with my heart in my throat, I looked at her and said, "Okay. If this is what you really want, I'll try it." Her eyes lit up, and she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Thank you," she whispered, reaching for my hand. "I promise this will be good for us." But as I sat there, forcing a smile, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just signed a deal with the devil. At first, the whole idea of an open marriage was unbearable. I spent the first week in a fog, my stomach twisting every time my wife went out with friends or stayed out late. She always told me where she was going, but it didn't matter. I knew what exploring new connections meant. Meanwhile, I couldn't bring myself to do the same. I felt betrayed and hurt, but I bottled it up. I didn't want to seem insecure or weak. I thought maybe I'd get used to it, that the jealousy would fade. But it didn't. It got worse. Then, something strange happened. One night, while scrolling aimlessly on my phone, I downloaded a dating app. At first, it was just curiosity. I didn't even upload a profile picture. But after days of watching my wife come home glowing and carefree, I finally snapped. I made a profile, added a decent picture, and swiped. I didn't expect much. I wasn't exactly confident at this point. But to my surprise, I got a few matches. Women started messaging me, complimenting my sense of humor or asking about my interests. It felt good, better than I expected. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. I started chatting with one woman in particular. Her name was Emma. She was smart, funny, and easy to talk to. Unlike my wife, she didn't make me feel inadequate. She laughed at my jokes, asked about my day, and made me feel wanted. Our first meeting was at a small coffee shop. I was nervous, half convinced I was going to ruin it somehow, but Emma put me at ease right away. We talked for hours about work, movies, travel plans we hadn't yet made. When we said goodbye, she hugged me and whispered, "You're a great guy, You know that. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Somewhere along the line, I'd forgotten I could be great. My wife's request for an open marriage had made me feel like I wasn't enough. But Emma made me feel like I was more than enough. Over the next few months, everything changed. My confidence grew. I started hitting the gym again, dressing better, and focusing on things that made me happy. I met new people, formed genuine connections, and for the first time in years, I felt alive. And the more I thrived, the more my wife seemed to unravel. At first, she was happy, convinced her open marriage plan was working. But when she noticed I wasn't waiting at home, miserable and jealous, things shifted. She started asking questions about where I was going, who I was seeing. Suddenly, she wasn't so comfortable with this arrangement. One night, she asked me to sit down. I knew what was coming. I think we should close the marriage, she said softly, as though she were doing me a favor. It's not working the way I thought it would. I looked at her, calm and composed. Why now? She fidgeted. Because I miss us. I miss you. This isn't making me happy. I leaned back, letting her words settle. Funny, I said finally. You're the one who wanted this. And now that I'm happy, you want to change the rules? She looked at me, stunned. What do you mean? Aren't you unhappy too? I shook my head. No, I'm not. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm living my life. I'm not the backup plan anymore. Her face fell, and I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen before, regret. She didn't respond right away. For a long moment, we sat there, the silence between us heavy and suffocating. Finally, she whispered, I didn't think it would end up like this. I looked at her carefully. The woman sitting in front of me was a stranger. Someone I'd loved for years but barely recognized now. The open marriage was supposed to make us stronger, but all it did was show me how weak our foundation really was. You wanted freedom, I said, my voice calm but firm. You wanted excitement, and now you're angry that I found it too. She stood up abruptly, her face turning red. This isn't fair. I thought we were fixing things. Not what? Not moving on? I interrupted. My voice didn't rise, but it was sharp enough to cut through her anger. You wanted me to play along, but you didn't think I'd find my own happiness, did you? You expected me to sit here, waiting for you to figure out your feelings while I stayed miserable. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel guilty. Not anymore. I'd spent months questioning myself, doubting my worth, and bending over backward to be the man she wanted. And for what? So she could pull the rug out from under me when things didn't go her way? You're being cruel, she whispered. No, I said softly. I'm being honest. For once, the truth is, I hadn't realized how much I'd been sacrificing in our marriage until this whole mess started. I was always the steady one, the guy who made life easier for her, the person she leaned on. But somewhere along the line, I stopped being a partner and became a crutch. Her happiness was my responsibility, and I accepted that role without realizing how much it drained me. This open marriage, this terrible, humiliating experience, had shown me something valuable. I deserved more. I deserved someone who wanted me for me, not someone who saw me as plan B when life got too comfortable. That night, we didn't argue anymore. She went to bed in tears, and I sat on the couch for hours, staring at the ceiling, just thinking. My mind kept going back to Emma, to the new friends I'd made, to the version of myself I was becoming. A version I liked, a version I wouldn't give up for anything. A week later, I asked my wife for a divorce. It wasn't an easy decision. I didn't hate her. Part of me still cared about her, about the life we'd shared. But I couldn't stay married to someone who only realized my worth when it suited her. I couldn't pretend we could just go back to the way things were. When I broke the news, she was devastated. She begged me to reconsider, promising things would be different, that we'd close the marriage, and try to be happy again. But I knew better. Some things can't be undone. This isn't just about the open marriage, I explained gently. This is about how you see me, and how I see myself now. I deserve better. For the first time, I think she truly understood. She didn't fight me on the divorce, and a part of me wonders if she saw it coming. Maybe she realized that the damage was done, that we couldn't go back to being the couple we once were. The months following the divorce were strange but freeing. I moved out of our house, found my own place, and focused on rebuilding my life. At first, it was hard. There were moments where the loneliness crept in, where I wondered if I'd made a mistake. But then I'd think about everything I'd learned. The open marriage had started as my wife's way of finding herself, but it ended up being my journey instead. I discovered my confidence, my independence, and my ability to thrive without someone else defining my worth. I met new people, built meaningful friendships, and even started dating again, slowly, cautiously. As for Emma, she became a good friend. We never rushed into anything romantic, and maybe that's why our connection feels so real. She's been there for me through it all, reminding me of the man I'd forgotten I could be. One day, I saw my ex-wife's social media. She posted about how she was focusing on herself and learning from past mistakes. I don't know if she meant it or if it was just for show, but it didn't matter. Her life was her own now, and mine was finally mine. Sometimes people ask me if I regret agreeing to the open marriage. It's a fair question, and for a long time, I wasn't sure how to answer it. But now, I don't regret it at all. It broke us, yes, but maybe we needed to break. If she hadn't asked for an open marriage, I might have spent the rest of my life trying to make her happy, never realizing how unhappy I was. The truth is, her request was the wake-up call I didn't know I needed. It hurt, but it forced me to grow, to stand up for myself, and to take control of my life. So, if you're ever in a situation like mine, here's what I'll say. Don't lose yourself trying to be what someone else wants. Your worth isn't defined by their expectations. As for me, I'm happier now than I ever thought possible. And I didn't need an open marriage to find excitement. I just needed to find me.